you talking about? Come on, man.
Welcome, one and all. Here we go. Matt Connarton Unleashed, and we are live from the studios of WMNH 95.3 FM in windy, blustery downtown Manchester, New Hampshire. My God, is it windy out? It was even worse this morning. I'll tell you what. And by the way, not to be all, poor me or anything like that, but I got here today. So it was so windy out. I had to, the expression, hold on to your hats. I was holding on to my hat. It was so windy. And I get into the building. Not the first time this has happened. I get into the building. I get up here into the radio studio at WMNH and realized that I forgot to bring my water bottle with me today, which does happen from time to time. I take it out of my bag at home. I forget to put it back in. I should just, after I'm done drinking out of it, I should put it back in the bag. So as a result of that, I stood here and went, oh, fiddlesticks. I have to go back outside because I need water. So I went back outside so I could walk over to the store and grab a water. I cannot do the show without the proper hydration. I am, as Bobby the Brain Heenan used to say when I started watching wrestling when I was a kid, I am a broadcast journalist. Heenan used to say that all the time. I'm a broadcast journalist, Monsoon. He'd be saying that to Gorilla Monsoon at the time. Or, I'm a broadcast journalist, McMahon. He'd be saying that to Vince McMahon. You get the idea. So I need to be hydrated so I can bring you the show that you deserve. Of course, that is subjective. You as an individual might be a great person and deserve a great show. Or you might be, someone who's not such a great person. Maybe you deserve not such a great show. I don't know. But regardless, I am so happy that you're here with me today. And I do have my hydration. Now, unfortunately, however, the store that I went to, all they had, because I did not go, although I should, I feel like I cheated on them a little bit. Normally, I would run up to Bunny's, the wonderful convenience store. It's a couple of blocks from here. And they, shout outs to them. They often listen to my show. In fact, I don't know the gentleman's name, but I ran over there on a Friday night because on Fridays, after I wrap up my show, I usually, will run over to, Bunny's to get something for something to fortify myself because I end up not leaving because Fridays, I do my show and then I'm back on at 8 p.m. for Retro Spectrum Radio with Paulie C. Because I'm Paul's co-host on that show along with our great friend Dan Randlett. So there's no point in me going to the parking garage and leaving just to come back, right? Plus I got to be here for a bit anyway. I've got to upload my show, and then I like to be the first one here later. So anyway, so I just stick around. I've got my computer with me. I do my work in between shows. But I forget if it was this past Friday or the Friday before. I went up to Bunny's. And the gentleman there was like, I don't know if he recognized my voice or something. Oh, I remember why. I know how he knew. Because Kenny was in there. Kenny from the Hop Knot, our wonderful sponsor in the Brady Sullivan Plaza at 1000 Elm Street. Kenny was there. And so Kenny and I are saying hello to each other. And the gentleman who was working put it together. He's like, are you Matt Connarton? I said, yes. He says, oh, I listen to your show in here all the time. I love to listen to the station. And I really like your show. So shout outs to Bunnies. And thank you so much for being fans of the show and fans of WMNH and so on and so forth. But because I've heard they listen to the morning show in there too. But in this particular instance, it was so windy. I was like, you know what? I can run over to Cesario's. They probably have far fewer options for water, but they'll have water, and I'd rather go to Bunny's out of loyalty because they do play the show. But Cesario's is closer, and it was so windy. I was afraid I was going to lose my toupee. It's so windy out. So I went into Cesario's and I got Dasani, which was pretty much the only option. The thing about Dasani, though, is I don't know if y'all have ever noticed this, if you've ever drank Dasani. There's a hint of salt. Dasani puts salt in their water. It's not like you're drinking ocean water. That would be dangerous. But they do put a little bit of salt in their water, which I suspect is to keep you thirsty. And therefore, by keeping you thirsty, you will consume ever more Dasani. So, but I needed hydration, my friends. I needed hydration. So, but it was so windy, and it's it's not even as windy now as it was this morning. I was out this morning. It was super windy. I thought I was in a typhoon, but it only has to be moderately windy for it to seem extraordinarily windy down here on Elm Street. I've heard Peter White say it on the morning show. It's such a wind tunnel, Elm Street. Just if it's, it could be, wind gusts of 5 miles per hour. And on Elm Street, it feels like it's 50 miles per hour. That's an exaggeration, my friend. I am being hyperbolic, as we so often are in talk radio, political talk radio in particular. But anyway, a very, very blustery day. So listen, here's the deal, as our president would say. Unfortunately, our camera system is still not working here in the studio. So I know that it's being worked on, but so we are not going out on Facebook Live, and we are not on Comcast 97 locally here in Manchester either. So you do have other options, of course, to stream the audio for the show. And you can still post, please, by all means, you can still post on the Matt Connarton Unleashed Facebook page. I'll keep an eye on that during the show. So, even though there isn't an active Facebook Live chat room for you to use. And our, chat room is very popular, both on this show and the morning show. We get a lot of comments in the Facebook Live chat. But you can still post directly to the page, and please like the page if you haven't done so already. Also, if you go to mattconnerton.com and click listen live, it'll take you to the to my show page at mattconnerton.com, the Matt Connarton Unleashed page. And if you scroll down, you'll see there's an area there where you can also leave comments, and I'll keep an eye on that during the show too. So in lieu of having an actual Facebook Live chat going, there is a discussion page you can use there at mattconnerton.com. Go there, click listen live. And also, too, that same page near the top has all the streaming options for you. So there are other ways that you can stream the audio for the show for your listening pleasure and enjoyment. You just can't watch the show, but you can listen. And of course, we have all the people who listen anyway in their cars during their afternoon commute. That is why we call it drive time in Radio Land. So wonderful to have you all with me. If you'd like to join the discussion today, 603-250-6007 is the number to call. And as always, we have much to discuss. 603-250-6007. You can also, if you'd like, send a text message to 617-917-4476. People ask me all the time, Matt, you really give out your personal cell phone number on the show? Hell no. No, that's a special number that I set up specifically to receive text messages for Matt Connarton Unleashed. So you can text me at 617-917-4476 if you're a little shy about calling. But we have someone who is not shy about calling, clearly, because we have our first call of the show today. Hi, welcome to Matt Connarton Unleashed. Who's this?
Hey, it's Eazy-G calling from the frozen tundra of Manchester.
The frozen tundra of Manchester. Eazy-G, it is so windy out. I don't
stayed
know.
inside today.
That's probably a good idea. You might have lost your toupee if you'd ventured out.
Yeah, I don't have the that USA Network anymore, but I always follow it on the Facebook yesterday. It was like I don't know if you heard. It was like a squash match. Bobby Lashley just killed the Miz. He's now the new WWE champion.
Bobby Lashley actually killed the Miz live on television.
He pretty much did. Yeah, he gave him that. He gave him that thing he calls the lock over his what do you call that? Special maneuver where he just destroys the guy. He's so strong.
Bobby Lashley is your new new WWE.
Yeah, so the Hurt Business, they got
champion.
the tag belts, and they got the WWE Championship.
Wow.
I mean, everybody knew he was going to win. You know, nobody thinks the Miz is going to keep that belt too long.
Right.
I mean, he made a deal with the devil. The Bobby Lashley interfered at the last pay-per-view, and for the Miz to get the belt, he said, "I demand a title shot later on."
You ever
and
think
he tried to avoid it. He tried to say I had a stomach ache, and but Bobby Lashley wasn't taking any of that.
Poor The Miz. Oh boy, I'll tell you. You ever think about making a deal with the devil, Eazy-G?
Yeah, well, he wanted to win the belt, so he made a deal with the Hurt Business.
You didn't say no.
And the deal was he had to give him a title shot. I'm beginning to believe that wrestling is fixed, you know.
Do you believe Robert Johnson made a deal with the devil?
Who?
Robert Johnson, the old blues player. Think he made a deal with the devil, or do you think that's folklore? You believe in the devil, right?
I don't know who it is.
Oh, boy. I think it's legit. I think he did make a deal with the devil.
But I was surprised to hear that Bobby Lashley is like 46 years old.
Yeah, but he he looks... Well, oh, wait, I just realized something, though. You don't like the old guys, so you probably object.
I didn't realize he was one of the older guys.
Oh, yeah, but he's in incredible shape. I think he might be pharmaceutically enhanced.
Do you think he takes the juice, the steroids?
I think he might be on the Big J. I think he might be gassed up, as they say. Yes, I think he might be on the juice.
Yeah, I'm sure, but they're not supposed to do that anymore. It's supposed to be testing now.
Oh, there's a lot of things. There's a lot of things no one is supposed to do. Wink, wink, if you know what I mean.
Yeah, he looks pretty good for his age, yeah.
Oh, he looks incredible. He's in incredible shape. He's in the best shape of his life.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, he's gonna get his big WrestleMania moment. So the rumor is on the street he's gonna fight Drew McIntyre for the WWE Championship at WrestleMania.
Yes.
And the Miz is gonna fight with John Morrison. They're gonna fight that new guy, the priest there, and that rapper guy there.
Oh, Bad Bunny.
Bad Bunny, yeah.
Yeah. Hey,
but I'm glad to see they put the belt on him because he's never had the belt before, the WWE belt.
Who hasn't? Bobby Lashley,
the guy that won last night there.
What wasn't he? Are you sure?
Well, he's been U.S. champion before, but I don't think this is the first time he gets the WWE Championship.
Oh, okay. You know what? I might be thinking of
Bobby Lashley. Yes,
I might have thought he had already been champion because I might be thinking of because he was in a WrestleMania main event one year, as you know, and as even listeners who aren't into wrestling might know, when it was him versus Umaga, and who was in Bobby Lashley's corner? Eazy-G, you remember, right?
No.
Donald John Trump. Donald Trump was in Bobby Lashley's corner.
Oh, yeah, you're right.
And
you're
Vince
right.
McMahon.
He's got the belt, though. This is going to be a bigger moment.
Right. Well, not really. I mean,
I was surprised to hear that Yokozuna is related to Roman Reigns ahead of the table.
Yeah, Yokozuna, for those who don't know, they marketed him as as being Japanese, and he was managed by Mr. Fuji, and his big finishing move was the Banzai Drop. But Yokozuna, not actually Japanese, but Samoan.
Yeah, I didn't know that. He's no longer with us, right? He died, right?
He died. Yes, he's.
That's what I thought.
Yeah, his heart gave out.
The stupid thing they got tonight on Friday night is the Daniel Bryan and Jey Uso, and if Jey Uso wins, Daniel Bryan has to say that Roman Reigns is the head of the table, and if he wins the steel cage matchup, he gets a title shot at Fastlane.
Exciting!
I think he's going to win.
Yeah,
that would be a good matchup for the Fastlane.
I've been so
maybe
busy.
A rematch at the WrestleMania.
Yeah. Do you?
What kind of stupid match is that, though? If he loses, he has to tell everybody that Roman Reigns is head of the table.
Yeah, that's kind of weak.
That was a stupid match, anyways. Daniel Bryan deserves a rematch because when he went through the elimination chamber, he had nothing left. He tried to win it in a few seconds with his famous move, and then of course Roman Reigns was all rested,
Uh-huh.
You get out of there, and he just pounded him, and the guy was knocked out.
Yes. Roman Reigns, he has the Superman punch, his big finishing move.
He didn't even use that. He just knocked him out. He was like almost unconscious.
Mm-hmm.
He kept hitting him in the face like 10 times.
Oh my God, it's very
He's
violent.
a bad guy now. He's better as a bad guy.
Oh, he's much better as a bad guy. They should have made him a villain 5 years ago. They should have done it so much sooner than they did.
He kept hitting him in the face. I couldn't believe the highlights. It's like, oh my God.
Oh my God, right in the face. Hey, are you doing an
If you would have done that to me, I would have been dead.
You would have been, yes. Now, are you doing an entertainment report this week, Eazy-G? We haven't discussed that.
I plan on it, yes. I'm thinking around 4:30 on Thursday, the usual.
4:30 p on Thursday. That's how we say it in the radio industry now, Eazy-G. We don't say
Right.
PM, we say P. But you have to emphasize the P. 4:30 p, you'll be doing your entertainment report.
Yeah, I agree with that. Peter White guy, it's definitely, I've been downtown before, just the other day, and you get out of downtown, you go to one of the side streets, not so bad, but it's definitely a wind tunnel down there.
Yes, absolutely.
I've been almost knocked down over the years. The wind was so heavy. I mean, heavy. The wind was so powerful that I almost get knocked over.
Mm-hmm. Well, you know what? We need to elect some politicians to do something about all this wind.
Yeah, well, it's believe it or not, not around here, but in Boston, I guess next week is a possibility of that.
I believe
Wednesday or Thursday. Of course, you can't really believe the 10-day forecast, but they're saying 60 degrees.
Why is that hard to believe?
Well, in Boston, it's always warmer there, I guess. Well,
too,
weather always changes.
It's March.
New England.
Yeah. Well, look,
they're saying that the long range forecast for the month of March is going to be above normal temperatures and not a lot of rain, because usually you get a lot of rain or snow in March. It's going to be one of the
I wouldn't say usually
more rain and more snow in the month of March than any month of the year.
Is that statistically true? Because it seems to me like March often gets very spring-like very early. That's part of why I think of March 1st as the first day of spring. As far as I'm concerned, Eric, it's already
your father
spring.
Is correct, because March 1st is the first day of meteorological spring. Your father is kind of on the right boat.
Meteorological spring. It is March 1st or is it April 1st? Oh, no, it is March, isn't it? Right, because December, January, February.
April, May, yeah. And then June 1st is the first day of meteorological summer.
So for those who don't know what you're talking about, Eazy-G, so meteorologists, they go by what they call the meteorological seasons. That's a very, very difficult word to say, at least for me. I've heard Al Caprillion, Mr. High Pressure himself, explain this. So They keep it very simple. So winter is December, January, February. Spring is March, April, May. Summer is June, July, August. And fall is September, October, November, which actually does make sense. And I like it because it's nice and simple. And yes, March 1st is the first day of spring. It is spring, everybody. Whether you like it or not, you can choose to accept it if you don't want to. But I declare it spring, and so does meteorologists like Al Caprillion. Where is Al Caprillion, Eazy-G? That's something.
He's working at Macy's now. He's been there for a while now.
Well, make sure you mention that again. Make sure you include that into your entertainment report. And if you have any Al Caprillion updates for us, that would be wonderful. And better yet, if you could get him to call in.
He used to do the weather on Channel 18, not competition for Channel 9, but they went out of business because they couldn't compete with Channel 9.
What's happening there, Eazy-G? Do you have the hiccups?
Yeah, sometimes I get the hiccups, yes.
No. Do you really? How often?
Sometimes, don't you? Everybody gets the hiccups.
I haven't had the hiccups since I was a kid.
Really? I'll get them sometimes.
Yeah, I think it's been, I think it's been literally decades since I've had the hiccups. I don't even remember what it's like to hiccup. If I were to hiccup right now, I'd probably be freaked out. I was like, whoa, what was that? Would scare me. I'd think there was something wrong with me.
All right, well, I guess I'll close the conversation. Bye-bye.
All right, bye-bye, Eazy-G. All right, our friend Eazy-G, Eric Gagnon, he'll be doing his entertainment report on Thursday. Don't we all look forward to that? I am quivering with excitement and or anticipation just thinking about it. Well, that does open up the line for you, 603-250-6007, if you would like to call in, 603-250-6007. You can also text me at 617-917-4476. You can email me, matt@mattconnerton.com. You can post directly to the Matt Connarton Unleashed Facebook page. I'll keep an eye on that during the show. I apologize that the camera system is still down. That is a temporary situation. And, of course, you can also comment on the Matt Connarton Unleashed website as well. I will accept your comments there. And I will read them aloud, as long as they're in good taste, of course. If you're a longtime listener, you know I place a very high value on keeping things in good taste. I do want to remind you, of course, that we are proudly sponsored by the Hop Knot. Don't go there today. They're closed because Monday and Tuesday is their weekend, but they'll be open tomorrow. They're open Wednesday through Sunday. They have delicious gourmet pretzels. They have craft beer. They have trivia night every Thursday night, which is very successful and exciting. And they have these really cool face masks, by the way. The Hop Knot face masks are only $10, and they look really cool. And if you purchase one of those, if you order food and, you wear your face mask, I mean, you have to wear a face mask to enter the building anyway because they're committed to doing things very safely there. But if you're wearing your Hop Knot face mask when you walk in to pick up your order, you get 10% off. How cool is that? It's like a frequent shopper card that you wear on your face, a discount card. So there you go. So the Hop Knot, great food, great service, and a wonderful family that owns and operates it. And we're very honored and proud and privileged to have them as a sponsor. We have a bunch of wonderful sponsors here at WMNH 95.3, Queen City Cabinetry, our friend Mike Pelopita, who's a big supporter of the show and all the shows here, a big supporter of the station. Bring your kitchen to life with Queen City Cabinetry. Of course, also the Regency Collection and the OG of WMNH sponsors, CGI Business Solutions. They go all the way back to the beginning, before I was even here. Can you believe that? Speaking of, by the way, I believe it is, I forget if it's coming up or if it's gone by but we're right around, I know, the 5-year anniversary of the morning show with Peter White, which, of course, you can hear weekdays from 7 to 9 a.m. with a replay from 2 to 4 p.m. right before this show. 5 years for the morning show, and on April 4th will be the 4-year anniversary of Matt Connarton Unleashed being here on WMNH. So very exciting. And looking at Instagram, because, by the way, you can also communicate with me through Instagram, by the way. I'm Matt Connarton on Instagram. But I just see there's something from the Hop Knot via Instagram. And so I'm trying to open that. It's opening a little slow on my phone. Oh, okay. Here's what it is. So this is from the Hop Knot. Whoops. Oh, it scrolled by on me. How do I get it to stop for a minute? Well, here, follow the Hop Knot. Follow the Hop Knot on Instagram. I should start saying that anyway. Please follow the Hop Knot. Oh my God. It's not Instagram. It's my phone. That's the problem. At @HopKnot_Manchester on Instagram. Please give them a follow. And follow me on Instagram, Matt_Connarton on Instagram as well. I would love it. Absolutely love it. Let's see. Should we get into some stuff? Hey, something that, and I don't want to spend too much time on this because we got into it in depth yesterday on the show. And there is some news. There is a third accuser, New York Governor Andrew Cuomo. A third woman has come out and accused him of sexual harassment. But we were talking yesterday on the show about this a bit and the way CNN is handling it. And Chris Cuomo has not been discussing this on his show, on his primetime show, because... well, for obvious reasons, but he did finally address it. And the reason I'm bringing this up, there's a couple of reasons. And like I said, I don't want to devote too much time to this subject today, but I've kind of changed my thinking on something about Chris Cuomo and his brother and how they relate to each other on television. And I suspect I'm not the only one. And it also kind of relates to something else I've been thinking about that I just haven't had a chance to really discuss on the air. But in terms of the media and the direction the media goes, but let me just say this first. Well, actually, here, let me talk about what Chris Cuomo did. So Chris Cuomo finally came right out and directly addressed the lack of coverage on his program, his primetime program on CNN, the lack of coverage of what is happening with his brother, Andrew Cuomo, governor of New York. And, you know, I had said, and we talked about it yesterday at length when Mike Doyle called in too. We talked about it, and then I talked about it a bit more afterward. But I get why. And by the way, I do disagree with Mike. I think CNN's giving Governor Andrew Cuomo quite a bit of coverage, but regardless, but not within, obviously, the broadcast that Chris Cuomo does. And, you know, I've said, look, I get it. I understand why Chris Cuomo's leaving it alone. It's his brother. And I think that, see, some people were initially critical, and we'll get to in a moment the part where I've kind of changed my mind about an aspect of this. But some people have been critical, saying that, well, Chris Cuomo, it's not right that Chris Cuomo is ignoring the story just because it's his brother. To which I say, no, I would actually prefer, just looking at it in terms of just journalistically speaking, I would prefer that Chris Cuomo not go near this particular story because it's his brother. And you should, too, prefer that, in my opinion, because one would not expect Chris Cuomo to be able to approach the story with any objectivity anyway, right? Because it is his brother. It's like, you know, if I had, say I had a family member who was in politics and that family member got into some kind of a scandal or something, you know, I don't think you would expect me to come on the air and start talking about it. Now, granted, I'm in a very different position than Chris Cuomo is. I mean, aside from the fact that, you know, Chris Cuomo obviously is on CNN and he's famous and probably has a gigantic bank account and all that. But also, too, you know, so in terms of stature, plus apparently Chris Cuomo is quite tall. Not that I'm short. I'm 5'10". I used to be 5'11", but apparently I shrunk. But we all shrink. But, you know, I do an opinion-driven show. Political talk radio, the vast majority of political talk radio shows that you hear, it's not someone sitting talking about the news and just objectively giving you hard news. It's political talk radio is opinion based, right? All these shows, these political talk shows that you hear, they're all that's the format, right? They're opinion based. So I give you opinions. I'm not just giving you facts. I tell you what I think. Whereas Chris Cuomo's show is not supposed to be that, although it has turned into that. But we'll come back to that because that's something I want to get to today. But I don't expect Chris Cuomo to talk about his brother. Now, everybody's reporting on this, but I like this site, businessinsider.com for media stories. This Business Insider is great for stories about the media, specifically things going on in media, and also Mediaite is great too. But Business Insider, I think, is particularly adept at giving you objective news. They're reporting CNN's Chris Cuomo is facing backlash for refusing to cover his brother, Governor Andrew Cuomo's scandals after praising his pandemic response. There we go. Right in the headline of the story. I don't even have to read the story itself, although I will. But right there in the headline of the story, this is where we have a problem with Chris Cuomo and where I've changed my thinking a little bit. See, my gut reaction to things was, as far as his lack of coverage, was, like I said, I wouldn't expect Chris Cuomo to be able to speak objectively when it is his own brother, actually half brother, but regardless, they both look very much like their dad. Especially Andrew Cuomo looks a lot like Mario Cuomo now as he gets older, as one would expect. I would not expect Chris Cuomo to be able to cover this objectively. So fine, leave it alone. It makes sense. You've got a conflict of interest, whatever. There's plenty of other things to focus on. And there are, and again, I disagree with Mike Doyle on this because from what I've seen, there are other shows on CNN that are covering the Andrew Cuomo scandal. But here's where I've changed my mind on something. You might recall that early on in the pandemic, when Governor Andrew Cuomo was doing his daily briefings, there was a lot of positive feedback, a lot of positive response to his daily briefings, that he was very substantive. He seemed very engaged in what was going on. He was giving a lot of facts, a lot of information, and was presenting a plan that under his leadership, the state of New York was going to follow, et cetera, et cetera. They were so good and so praised by so many that he won an Emmy. I meant to look it up, and I'm still not sure. I'll try to look it up during the break. But he actually won an Emmy Award for his briefings. And people were drawing these contrasting opinions about, his briefings versus the coronavirus task force briefings that Trump was doing, and how Andrew Cuomo's approach was so much better, and how he was able to give hard news, hard facts, and bad news, but while still maintaining some level of optimism that, look, we're going to get through this. We're going to get through this. Everything sucks. He didn't come out and sugarcoat anything, right? And that's where some of the contrast was with Trump. Cuomo wasn't sugarcoating anything. He was saying, look, this sucks. We're in a terrible, terrible, terrible position here. But we're New Yorkers, and we're going to get through it. We're going to do what we got to do, and we're going to get through it. That was the perception, right? That was my perception, too. I'll admit it, right? And I'm not saying I was wrong to think that way, or you were wrong to think that way if you felt that way. Here's where I've kind of changed my mind, though. So the positive response to his daily press briefings led to this ongoing thing where Governor Andrew Cuomo was appearing on Chris Cuomo's show at least once a week, I think, for a while. And it became like almost a comedy routine where, don't get me wrong, there was a lot of substance there. But Chris Cuomo was, doing a lot of just friendly, brotherly ball busting and whatnot. And they were having a lot of fun. And, people were making YouTube clips of it, the hijinks. And they were trying to inject a lot of lighthearted humor into things. And, showing that sort of brotherly camaraderie and whatnot. And some people thought that was cool and it was interesting and kind of fun. And, as long as they continued to cover the seriousness of it, but then maybe bookend the segment with some lighthearted banter or whatnot, right? Some people thought, yeah, this is okay. And I was one of those people. And I didn't go out of my way to go on YouTube later and, I got to look up what happened on Chris Cuomo's show with his brother and, see if they can make me laugh. But I was fine with it. I thought, well, this is a unique dynamic. You've got Chris Cuomo on CNN with the big show. And you've got, his brother is the governor of New York and he's doing these daily press briefings. And, at one point, New York was very much the hot spot, right, for COVID. So I thought, well, it's a unique circumstance and whatnot. But there were people who were uncomfortable with it. And what I realize now is that I didn't quite perceive before is that the people who were uncomfortable with it, it's not that they necessarily could have foreseen what was coming as far as Andrew Cuomo, although maybe some of them did. But it's not that they necessarily could have foreseen that. But I think some people maybe were worried what happens when Andrew Cuomo does get some bad press, as he has in the past, right? Not the cleanest politician, by most standards. And we talked yesterday on the show about what happened in 2013 as an example with the Moreland Commission. What happens when something goes wrong with Governor Andrew Cuomo? What does Chris Cuomo do then? And I'll tell you what, I realize now the people who were concerned about those segments and who are uncomfortable with that whole dynamic, they were right. They were right. And I was mistaken to be one of the people who thought, no, this is fine. What's the big deal? You know, they're brothers. They're kind of, this is a unique dynamic. It's fine. Because now what has happened is now Chris Cuomo is in this terrible position where people are saying, hey, why is it that when everything was positive, when your brother was getting all this praise, all this adulation, even won an Emmy over these daily press briefings, and people were talking about him. I mean, some of the positive press that Andrew Cuomo was getting at the time was so positive that there was, I mean, this was ridiculous, but there was this idea out there, maybe Andrew Cuomo should replace Biden as the nominee. He's younger. He's doing these briefings every day. Maybe Andrew Cuomo should be the Democratic nominee for president instead of Biden. I mean, again, obviously just fantasy stuff, but it was out there. There were people saying it. I remember his brother, Chris Cuomo, asking him about that on the air. Is there anything to this? But now, I mean, hindsight being 2020, now it turns out the people who were concerned were right to be. Because now people are looking at Chris Cuomo and going, why aren't you covering the story? You had your brother on once a week, at least once, twice a week for, all kinds of banter and brotherly ball busting and all that. Now your brother's in a, his political career might be coming to an end. I don't know if it's too soon to say that. It might be. But again, I say might be coming to an end. And now you've got nothing to say about it. So I think those people were right to be uncomfortable. Now, I don't think Chris Cuomo, again, let me say this. I think Chris Cuomo is right not to cover the story. And I think we, as consumers of news, should not want him to cover the story. Maybe somebody else can do a segment on his show about the story, but he himself should not speak about it. I'm fine with that. Because, again, who would expect him to be objective? Right? So, fine. He doesn't have to. But he would seem much more credible recusing himself from covering the story had it not been for all those segments he did with his brother before. And that is where the problem is. Business Insider, some bullet points here from the story. CNN host Chris Cuomo is facing criticism after he announced he won't cover the allegations of sexual harassment against his brother, New York Governor Andrew Cuomo. The TV host said he obviously can't cover his brother's scandals because it presents a conflict of interest. But critics noted that this standard did not apply when the CNN host regularly hosted his brother for softball interviews through the first months of the COVID-19 crisis. And those are the bullet points from the story. The actual story we'll go through in a second. It's only a few paragraphs. It won't take long. I will say this. During those softball segments that the story references, Chris Cuomo did ask his brother some challenging questions. I do remember that because I did see some of those. He did ask him challenging questions. So it's not like he just fawned over him the entire time. He did try to maintain. And maybe that's why, by the way, I watched those segments and thought, this is fine. But I'm looking at it differently in hindsight. So Business Insider goes on to say CNN primetime host Chris Cuomo is facing criticism after he announced on his Monday program that he won't cover the allegations of sexual harassment against his brother. On Monday night, I'm skipping down here because some of it recaps what's in the bullet points. On Monday night, the governor was accused of sexual harassment and unwanted advances by a third woman. So this was last night after we got off the air. So this is new information. Ann Ruch, or Ruch, or R-U-C-H. Oh, I'm sorry, Anna. I'm going to go with Ruch. Who said Cuomo touched her back, held her face, and asked to kiss her at a 2019 wedding. So Chris Cuomo said this, quote, obviously, I'm aware of what's going on with my brother, and obviously I cannot cover it because he is my brother. Now, of course, CNN has to cover it. They have covered it extensively, and they will continue to do so, unquote. Oh, I got to play He Ain't Heavy, He's My Brother at the break. It just occurred to me. CNN and Chris Cuomo both faced backlash for inviting the governor on the program for a series of interviews about the COVID-19 crisis. The governor received months of positive press for his handling of the pandemic, but is now dealing with a scandal over his administration's withholding of data about nursing home deaths. On Monday and Tuesday, a slew of voices across the political spectrum called the network hypocritical and insisted it never should have let the governor on Cuomo prime time. Rich Lowry, editor of National Review, a conservative who I actually like, by the way. I like Rich Lowry. He tweeted, quote, obviously I can't cover it because he is my brother would have been a pretty good rule from the beginning. Again, hindsight is 20/20, but he's not wrong. He's not wrong. Yashar Ali, a liberal journalist, argued that CNN's decision to allow the Cuomos to appear together on TV was flawed. Meghan McCain, a conservative host of The View, slammed the Cuomos for their lighthearted interviews last year and accused CNN of undermining faith in the media. A spokesperson for CNN didn't immediately respond to insiders' request for comment. Let's see. Soledad O'Brien, she used to work for CNN, right? Or was it MSNBC? Or maybe it still is. She tweeted, maybe the media reporter could explain to us why the jokes with governor slash brother was cool, but now scandal slash brother equals cannot discuss. There's some others. Oh, there's a little bit more here. The Atlantic's David Graham reported last year that CNN agreed that an interview between two brothers didn't meet its journalistic standards, so it prohibited Chris from interviewing Andrew for about 7 years. This is interesting. But in March 2020, the network began making exceptions to that rule and allowed the governor to regularly chat with his brother about the coronavirus. Those conversations were personal and informal. The brothers poked fun at each other and discussed family drama, and both Cuomos saw their ratings shoot up. That's interesting, by the way. So Graham is reporting that there was actually a rule in-house at CNN that Chris could not interview Andrew on the air, and that was waived beginning with the pandemic. Graham wrote in May, quote, it was easy to see what was gained. CNN got must-watch TV, and the governor's office got a chance to humanize a politician more respected, usually grudgingly, than loved. With a little distance, it's clear what was lost, too. Accountability for New York's troubled response to the crisis, unquote. That's a great assessment of it. He was right. At times, the CNN host lavished his brother with praise live on the air. Yeah, this I did find uncomfortable at the time. He said in an interview in June, quote, "I'm wowed by what you did, and more importantly, I'm wowed by how you did it. Obviously, I think you're the best politician in the country, but I hope you feel good about what you did for your people because I know they appreciate it," unquote. Oh, yeah, that's not okay. That's uncomfortable. That's too much. CNN said in a statement last month that it made, quote, "an exception to the rule because the early months of the pandemic crisis were an extraordinary time." The statement goes on, "We felt that Chris speaking with his brother about the challenges of what millions of American families were struggling with was of significant human interest. As a result, we made an exception to a rule we have had in place since 2013, which prevents Chris from interviewing and covering his brother, and the rule remains in place today. CNN has covered the news surrounding Governor Cuomo extensively," unquote. I have some thoughts on that statement, but let's grab this call. Hi, welcome to Matt Connarton Unleashed. Who's this?
Hoo-ah!
Hoo-ah! Tony D. How are you, my friend?
What happened to Facebook?
Yeah, there's a technical issue here at the station. It has to do with the camera system. So my understanding is it's being worked on, and hopefully this week it will be fixed. But yes, we are temporarily without the video component of the program, so you don't get to see my smiling face.
Well, I got my headphones on. I got WMNH.org playing in my ears. I just left the Pennsylvania Mental Health Institute, and when I told you that I will not let you down, I am going through meetings. I am walking to the train to head home. I just had a meeting and a sit down with 3 people from their committee on the way that they are not using mental health the way it should be in emergency room settings.
Wow. Excellent.
Yep. So it was they understand. They get it. Everyone keeps giving me the same excuse about the mental health stuff, about that the clinicians that are working in the, excuse me, I just walked into an old lady.
Oh, no.
My bad.
Oops.
But they're all under the same understanding that the physicians that are at the hospitals need to be cross-trained. There has to be a cross-training that needs to be involved with this. So my report was wrong about the mental health at 22.5%. It's 36.5% right now, up from what it was last year.
Oh my God!
And the guy that I spoke to, Dr. Suzuki, who is the head of this committee of the mental health for the University of Penn, told me that he's very, very saddened to hear about being put in a hallway for 6 hours with a mental health crisis, and that this needs to be addressed. It needs to be addressed affirmatively right now. Like, it needs to be addressed now.
Yeah.
I said, look, I get it. Look, I understand about the pandemic. I understand that the pandemic's going on, and the last place that anyone wants to go right now is the hospital. I get it.
Yeah.
But, Matt, you and I both have to agree on this. Mental health crisis, whether you're in a suicidal state, depression state, whether you're having really bad anxiety, panic attacks, it's a crisis just as much as a broken arm, a broken finger, going into a stroke, because in reality, and these doctors agree with me, it is a life or death situation. And being put into a hallway for 6 hours is not helping the situation for the person that is in need and that is in crisis mode. There has to be a better system along the lines for hospitals, for people that are out there. Ever since that I broke this on your show, do you know how many people have commented to me about their going through things?
How many?
A lot.
Good.
A lot.
Yeah.
A lot.
Yeah.
A lot of people have reached to me. People are mailing me stuff from their states on what their mental health stuff is what they do from the VA side of things, from Arizona. I'm trying to make a cause here. I'm trying to make a push, man. I'm trying to make a difference, because this needs to come to life.
Yes.
This can't be pushed to the side no more. It can't be. Look, we're talking about people who are with Andrew Cuomo and all the people that were sexually harassed by Marilyn Manson. These people got problems, dude.
Oh yeah.
These people are going to have mental health problems. Just because, look, the dollar doesn't fix everything. I'm sorry. I'm going to be the first to say it. You can give me all the money in the world, but it doesn't cure my PTSD. You know, none of that. I'm talking about the post-traumatic, the trauma, the stress that comes from being in situations that you're going to live with for the rest of your life.
Mm-hmm.
Hospitals should not push this stuff to the side. They can't push it to the side anymore. Being in a waiting room for 6 hours is blasphemy. That is not right.
Yeah.
There needs to be some type of clinician that is on call. I get that you're going to open up, and I said to him, I said, I get that you're going to open up these 16 facilities. But once those 16 facilities, and we know those 16 facilities are going to be really, 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 really overwhelmed at some point because everyone's going to be going to them, it's going to go back to the hospital. What's the hospital going to do? What is the hospital going to have in place? What action plan do you have for when these facilities that you open become overwhelmed? That's my question, because these facilities that are going to be like, you know, urgent cares are going to get overwhelmed because it's just going to happen. There's a 4-month waiting list to go see a psychiatrist. What do you think is going to happen at a clinic?
Yeah. Absolutely. It's, you're referring to, we should clarify for people who don't know, you were talking about it was in Pennsylvania, right? They're going to be opening all these clinics.
Pennsylvania, and there's going to be 3 in Jersey.
Oh, okay, good. Yeah. And that's happening in what, May? That these are opening or starting to open?
They're starting the process in May, should be fully open in July.
And these will be specifically for mental health.
That's all they're for. They are not for to come in for a hurt finger. They're not for anything like that. These are strictly for mental health crises.
Yeah. Which is, I mean, it almost sounds cliche to say it, but it's so true that now more than ever, this is something we need to be paying attention to because it's, obviously, you know, there's there was already a mental health crisis in this country, depression, so very common, and a host of other mental health issues. But with the pandemic, you know, it's really got people. A lot of people are just so fragile right now, and people who've been displaced, people who are out of work, et cetera. And also too, a very common problem, people who've had COVID, who then, you know, maybe they get over the physical part of it, but they've still got, mentally, in terms of, just their mental health, that took a beating, and that part they're not recovered from. And it's hard.
Yeah, it is. And I'm going to be the first to tell you, it's hard to live with it. All right, it's hard to live with it. I deal with it every day. I battle every day.
Mm-hmm.
I battle thoughts of darkness every day. They don't clear up. They don't get better. But you know what? I'm stronger than the disease. And I tell myself that. And I tell your listeners that have said, no. Sorry, man. I'm talking to the people trying to get on the train.
That's okay.
I always tell myself, you are stronger than the disease, because the disease is only temporary unless you let it become permanent, and you can fight through it.
Mm-hmm.
There's people that have reached out to me from the show that told me, Aunt, Tony, you're not alone. Got it. Listen, let's talk.
Mm-hmm.
Let's chit chat. You going through a bad day? Let's talk. Good morning. How are you? How are you feeling? That's what we've been doing for the last couple of days. We've been starting, like, I'm about to start a group chat with everyone and say, look, this is our place. This is our safe place. This is our safe place where we can just come in here and say, hey, how are you feeling today? Do you need advice from someone? Look, we're not doctors, but we can tell you how we've managed with general anxiety at one point. And just let you know, like, you don't have to jump off the cliff.
Yeah.
And I'm not trying to say it like that, but you get where I'm going. Like,
oh yeah,
you don't need to go deep with it. we're here to talk. You're going through a bad moment. You're having spouse problems. Let's talk about it. Let's see what the problem is. Is it your anger that's taking control of your relationship that's causing your relationship to go south? Is your family cutting ties with you because they can't understand what's going through? That's the key word, understanding the disease.
Mm-hmm.
Because this isn't a thing where it's just going to go away tomorrow. It is a disease.
Yeah.
And it is like arthritis. It's not going to go away, and it's going to flare up when the temperatures go cold because you get dormant. You become isolated. You get the wintertime blues.
Oh, yeah.
This is the movement that I'm trying to do, man. I'm trying so hard, and I'm using your outlet to be a voice for people to say, listen, stand up and let's make a movement. And get these people that are on these committees and these state reps to open their eyes and stop looking at their pockets and start looking at our minds. Start looking at our minds, because there's so many people that go through. I guarantee you there's state reps that go through and they just don't talk about it. You know?
Oh, definitely, yeah.
You know, why can't you be a voice for us? Where is our voice? Why do we got to start a movement to have a voice? Well, we're going to start a movement, and we're going to grow this movement. We're going to make this movement huge, and we're going to make a point that mental health is not going to be pushed to the side, and it needs to be addressed just like arthritis, just like cancer, just like everything else that is addressed in the medical field. This needs to be addressed the same way. It has to.
Yep.
It has to.
Yep, I love it. I'm with you. Absolutely.
So, like, the more that I can push, the more that I can get support, and the more that you can get listeners. I saw someone that commented that said they enjoyed the conversation and that you and Jenny had after I called the other, the one show about the mental health stuff.
Yeah, that was my dad. That was my dad, and he's a social worker. He's a clinician, and apparently he listened. He was listening that day, and yeah, he made that comment. Yeah.
Yeah, and you know what? He's absolutely right.
Yeah.
He's absolutely right. For someone who probably works in the field, who sees it and understands it, look, it's hard. It's hard. It's hard for them, and it's even harder for us because they know how hard we're trying to get in to get this fixed.
Right.
Until it's too late.
Yeah.
Take away what you want to say about Five Finger Death Punch. I understand. But they got a couple songs. Brighter Side of Gray.
Yeah.
Which really breaks down PTSD.
Really?
It really breaks down emotional distress. It's called the Right Side of Gray. You want to play it during the break? More than happy. I think you might enjoy it. But it's a song that
I have an open mind. Is there any swears in it?
No.
Okay.
They don't. It's very.
They don't really swear, do they?
Dry.
Yeah. What is it called? Right Side.
Right Side of Gray.
I'll play it. I'm going to play. He ain't heavy. He's my brother. And then I'll play that afterward. I'll play Right Side of Gray. Yeah.
Yeah. And it's they got another song called My Nemesis, which they're talking about the mental illness that is their nemesis. Their addiction, their whatever it may be.
Yeah.
And like, it's like the only two songs that I actually like by it. But
yeah.
But it stuck with me because when I listen to music, because I need the music to have a meaning towards me. It has to have a meaning. Like, I can't just listen to Eminem and say, "Oh, we're talking about Slimane." No, like it doesn't work. I got to listen to music that actually I can jive to and I can relate to, and those two songs actually do it for me.
Yeah, interesting.
So anyway,
okay, I'll give it a chance.
I'm gonna start making this movement. I got a couple people from different states that are already involved. A couple people from New Hampshire, Arizona, Texas, especially my area. I got people that reach out to me locally because I put out a video yesterday about anxiety, and surprisingly enough, I got like 20 shares and like 27 likes on it, and people were like, "Yo, I'm right behind you. Like you're not alone. Let's do this. Let's make a movement. I know plenty of people going through this who need an outlet. Let's do it." let's do it. Because if we can do it, if we can be a voice, and I can use you and your station to help Matt, it will be a blessing in disguise.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. No, we're with you.
So
sounds good.
That's it. I gotta hop on this train. My hands are cold.
Is it cold there today? It's been very cold here today.
Yeah, 16 degrees with a wind chill. It makes it feel like 9.
Yeah.
And I wasn't driving in down here because the parking was like $30 for like a couple hours. So I was like, I'd rather just pay $1.25. Took the Oh, we still have trolleys here, by the way. We have trolleys.
Ooh, that's fun.
So I took the trolley to the R9 subway down to downtown, grabbed myself a nice coffee when I got off the train, and walked in and had a very pleasant conversation with the committee. And we're going to have another one next week. And we're going to have that one with my psychiatrist. Because my psychiatrist is loving what I'm doing, and he thinks that he needs to be a part of it also. So,
oh, that's outstanding. Good. Yeah, that's great. Good for you.
So for anyone that's out there that's suffering, you're not alone.
Mm-hmm.
And just know, don't let it fester. Because the more you let it fester, the worse it gets.
Absolutely.
So, with that being said, be safe, be kind, love one another. Matt, have a great show.
All right, Tony D. Thank you, my friend. Take care. Thank you for the call. Bye-bye.
Be good.
All right, Tony D from Philadelphia. He's also the host of the Tony D Show, which you can check out online Saturdays live from 5 to 7 p.m. And, of course, available on all the podcasting networks as well. Miriam Banish, by the way, commented on Facebook on the page, I am missing Facebook Live. And Jenny said, me too. They are working on it. And Scott Robinson said, totally, this was referring to what I was saying about Chris Cuomo and Andrew Cuomo. Totally agree with you. What's good for the goose? Let's take a break. I am going to play, I'm going to play He Ain't Heavy, He's My Brother. I wanted to play that because of the Cuomos. and then we'll give that, I'm not a fan of Five Finger Death Punch, but we're going to give it a chance. That Brighter Side of Gray, that song Tony D was talking about. And then we will be back. More Matt Connarton Unleashed coming up in hour number 2. Don't go anywhere.
Why the hell would I take a test? Come on, man.
Welcome back, everybody. We are well into hour number 2, numero dos of Matt Connarton Unleashed. Speaking of doses, some breaking news about the vaccine. But we are, of course, live from the WMNH 95.3 FM studios here in downtown, blustery, windy. Hopefully it's less windy when I leave. Doesn't look like it, though. Downtown Manchester, New Hampshire. Apparently similar weather down in Philly, where Tony D is, from what I could gather from our discussion. Of course, we're also streaming, let's see, mattconnarton.com, WMNHradio.org, of course, Raw Talk Online, and you can actually, if you go to mattconnarton.com, all the streaming options are there for you, because our Facebook live stream is currently down. That is being worked on, as well as Comcast 97. So there's currently no video aspect of either this show or the morning show with Peter White, but that will be fixed shortly. But something about the camera system is down. So, but you can still stream us, and of course, if you're locally here in Manchester, you can listen in your vehicle as you drive during your afternoon commute 95.3 FM. If you'd like to join the discussion today, 603-250-6007 is the number to call, 603-250-6007. You can also text me at 617-917-4476, tweet me at Matt Connarton, or send an email to matt@mattconnerton.com. And even though there is no Facebook Live chat, because the Facebook Live is not working right now, you can still post directly to the Matt Connarton Unleashed Facebook page. You can also post right on mattconnerton.com, right on the website there. So you can still communicate in a myriad of ways with the program. And I do want to remind you, of course, too, that we are proudly sponsored by the Hop Knot in the Brady Sullivan at 1000 Elm Street. Don't go there today. Monday and Tuesday is their weekend, but they will be open tomorrow. And they have delicious gourmet pretzels. They have craft beer. It's a great place, the Hop Knot. And we're very honored and privileged to have them as a sponsor. But some breaking news I just saw pop up on Mediaite during the break. Biden says U.S. will have enough vaccines for every adult in America by the end of May. I read this with skepticism, but if this turns out to be true, this is actually pretty big news. President Joe Biden announced that the United States will have enough vaccines for every adult in the United States by the end of May. Biden spoke today on the rollout of the Johnson & Johnson vaccine and said the following, quote, "We're now on track to have enough vaccine supply for every adult in America by the end of May. About 3 weeks ago, we were able to say we'll have enough vaccine supply for adults by the end of July. And I'm pleased to announce today, as a consequence of the stepped-up process that I've ordered and just outlined, this country will have enough vaccine supply, I'll say it again, for every adult in America by the end of May. That's progress, important progress," unquote. As of this posting, the CDC has tallied that over 78 million vaccines have been administered. So if assuming that pans out, that is huge news. I hope that it, I hope that proves to be accurate. Actually, here we've got the audio here of Biden speaking about this. Looks like we got some audio here. It's about a minute long. This is from today.
Daily logistical support to strengthen Johnson & Johnson's efforts. And I want to thank Johnson & Johnson and Merck for stepping up and being good corporate citizens during this national crisis. Here's what all this means. We're now on track to have enough vaccine supply for every adult in America by the end of May. Let me say that again. When we came into office, the prior administration had contracted for not nearly enough vaccine to cover adults in America. We rectified that. About 3 weeks ago, we were able to say that we'll have enough vaccine supply for adults by the end of July. And I'm pleased to announce today, as a consequence of the stepped-up process that I've ordered and just outlined, this country will have enough vaccine supply, I'll say it again, for every adult in America by the end of May. By the end of May. That's progress, important progress. But it's not enough to have the vaccine supply. We need vaccinators, people to put the shots in people's arms.
There you go. So it goes on from there, but that's the crux of it. Well, that is, obviously it's not as simple. And I think that's what Biden was getting to there about the vaccinators. And, there's the distribution. It's not as simple as having the vaccines, right? You have to be able to get them out. So there's the distribution, and then there's, having people to do the vaccinations and so forth. I'm sure all that will be worked out. Obviously, that's being worked on. But assuming they can figure all that out, that is very, very encouraging news. As you know, if you're a longtime listener, I've been frustrated about, about this. The thing is, why is this? It's so crucial to get this done because, numbers were improving, but they kind of plateaued. And now they've started to go in the wrong direction a little bit again because we have these variants. And the vaccines will help against the variants. And, I know they're trying to figure out how effective these vaccines are against the variants. But from what I understand, while some of these variants, the vaccine with some of these variants, the vaccines might not be as effective, they'll still be highly effective, more efficacious than even, say, the flu vaccine that some of us get every year. So the efficacy of these vaccines, even against the variants, is still high enough that if we can get everybody vaccinated, we can finally defeat this terrible pandemic. But we are in a race against time. The vaccinations have to be done before the variants, while the variants are already spreading. So, we've got to. The vaccines will help against the variants, but we've got to get people vaccinated more quickly. So if it's possible to do this by the end of May, that's great. That's great. And I have been cautiously optimistic that we will see this summer, that this summer will be the beginning of things starting to get back to normal. The beginning of things getting back to normal. Things won't be back to normal maybe fully, totally back to normal, maybe for another year, hopefully less. But I think this summer could be the beginning of some semblance of normalcy. Of course, in Texas, they're acting like, Governor Greg Abbott, who, was dragged kicking and screaming into doing anything about COVID in his state, is now lifting the mask mandate. And, so that's the thing. Now is not the time. Just because there's good news about vaccines and the numbers were beginning to dip a little bit in a positive way. Now's not the time for everybody to just let their guards down, right? We gotta still mask up and do what we can to continue to mitigate the spread of the virus. But and of course, people to a large extent won't do that. Because, there's, it's like I say on the show all the time, there's a certain segment of the population who just don't care no matter what. We could have, instead of 500,000 dead, we could have 5 million dead, and there'd still be millions of Americans who are just like, yeah, whatever. What do I care? It hasn't affected me. So that's a problem, this mass sociopathy that exists in American society. And it's not just here, it's in other countries as well. And in some countries, everybody actually pulls together and stops whining and just does what they have to do. And that's why some countries have done really well with COVID. And other countries, like ours, have done horrible with it, and why we have 500,000 dead. And that number will continue to rise, but hopefully it begins to slow down significantly. I sure hope so. Let's see. We're at 5:30, so we only have about a half hour left. Let me give the numbers again, and then we'll get into... There's an element to the Cuomo thing that I don't want to talk about Cuomo anymore today, so we'll come back. There's something I had to add to that, but maybe we'll come back to that another day. But give us a call, 603-250-6007, 603-250-6007. You can also text me at 617-917-4476. Tweet me at Matt Connarton, or send an email to matt@mattconnerton.com. Christopher Wray, we should talk about Christopher Wray, the FBI director, because I think this is pretty interesting. He was a Trump appointee, as you know, but he replaced Comey, appointed by Trump, but he is sticking around under the Biden administration. We'll see. There is some question about whether or not that's long term. An FBI director's term is supposed to be for a decade, but obviously they can, it's not like a Supreme Court justice where it's a lifetime thing. They can be fired, or, they can leave anytime they want to, but it's supposed to be for 10 years. But Christopher Wray was testifying today regarding what happened, the insurrection on January 6th. And I'm trying to, there was an article that I wanted to look at here from Business Insider. The five biggest takeaways. Hang on. I apologize, everybody. This is the article that I want, but I think there's an issue with their website because let me see if I can get it to work on this other browser that I have. The five biggest takeaways from FBI Director Christopher Wray's testimony about the Capitol insurrection. Okay, looks like we're good. So some bullet points from today's testimony. So FBI Director Chris Wray testified today. He said the FBI warned law enforcement partners of violence at the Capitol ahead of the attack. Wray also shot down conspiracy theories about the siege and Trump's lies about the election. All right, so let's go through some of this here. It's a short article, but I didn't get a chance to see or listen to any of the testimony today. I don't know if any of you did, and if you have any thoughts on it, feel free to call us at 603-250-6007. But it says here, during congressional testimony today, FBI Director Christopher Wray defended the agency's actions leading up to the Capitol siege and said it sees the riot as an act of domestic terrorism. By the way, don't forget, Christopher Wray said in front of Congress before, he has talked about the threat of domestic terrorism in the United States, and that is very much on the radar's the radar of the FBI is domestic terrorism. So this is not a new subject for him to be discussing in front of Congress, but okay. So it says here, Wray is among several current and former law enforcement officials who testified or are slated to testify before Congress about the siege and how to prevent such an event from happening again. Here are the biggest takeaways from Wray's testimony before the Senate Judiciary Committee. First, the FBI alerted law enforcement partners about the threat of violence before the siege. Okay, so everybody was warned. In what was perhaps the most significant revelation from the hearing, Wray told lawmakers that the FBI transmitted an intelligence document warning of potential violence to the Capitol Police, the Metropolitan Police, and other law enforcement partners before the January 6th attack. Okay, so again, the FBI, they directly warned the Capitol Police, the Metro Police, which is D.C., and other law enforcement partners. The report in question comes from the Bureau's Norfolk, Virginia field office on January 5, the day before, and detailed how pro-Trump insurrectionists were planning for, quote, war at the U.S. Capitol the next day when Congress convened to formalize then-President-elect Joe Biden's 2020 election win. Last week, former Capitol Police Chief Steve Sund testified that he was not aware of the FBI's report. The acting Metro Police Chief, Robert Conti, testified that the report came in an email, adding that one would think such a stark warning would, quote, warrant a phone call or something, unquote. Oh, okay. Well, maybe the email was marked urgent. I don't know. Check your email. It's important. Check your email. But on Tuesday, today, Wray told lawmakers that the FBI sent the report to its partners via 3 different avenues within an hour after it was issued. An email to the Joint Terrorism Task Force, a verbal briefing at the Washington, D.C. field office and FBI headquarters, which included D.C. police and a posting to the law enforcement portal. Wray said, quote, as to why the information didn't flow to all the people within various departments, I don't have a good answer for that, unquote. Well, yeah, that's not really his problem, right? You know, if he communicates this to everybody, then, it's up to Metro Police and, who apparently, didn't it wasn't enough for them, these three different methods apparently, but it's up to them to disseminate the information and act on it, right? So takeaway number 2, Wray poured cold water on Republican conspiracy theories. This didn't surprise me at all. You know, you got guys like Ron Johnson out there saying, "Oh, they weren't insurrectionists. They weren't MAGA people. They were Antifa and BLM posing as MAGA people." Right? Yeah, of course. Right? Yeah, people, Antifa protesters are going to risk ending up in prison by going and pretending to be Trumpers storming the Capitol. I mean, it's absurd on every possible level by any logically thinking person. But if you're in a cult, of course, you're going to believe it. Okay, so here's what it says here. A slew of GOP lawmakers, activists, and media personalities have suggested in recent weeks that the Capitol attack was not carried out by Trump supporters, but by far-left Antifa actors posing as Trump backers. Last week, Senator Ron Johnson of Wisconsin made headlines when he cited during a Senate hearing an article written by a far-right analyst who said, without evidence, that people, quote, whom I presume to be Antifa or other leftist agitators, unquote, were responsible for the siege. The piece went on to falsely claim that the Trump supporters in the crowd were largely peaceful and law-abiding protesters. He said, quote, I'd really recommend everyone on the committee read this account, unquote. Who wrote it for you? Tucker Carlson or somebody? On Tuesday, Wray, this was today, a registered Republican who served in the Bush administration's Department of Justice, slapped down the claim that far left activists infiltrated the Capitol siege to stoke violence. He said, quote, we have not to date seen any evidence of anarchist, violent extremists, or people subscribing to Antifa in connection with the 6th. That doesn't mean we're not looking, and we'll continue to look, but at the moment we have not seen that, unquote. Wray also noted that there was no evidence that there were, quote, fake Trump supporters in the mob that stormed the Capitol, as Johnson and others have insinuated. Oh, yeah, but there were people, by the way, I mean, you know, people I know on social media pushing that, you know, like sharing out pictures of, I remember one particular thing that was going around, the Q shaman, you know, the idiot who, you know, they have to serve him the organic food in prison. He's now turned against Trump, saying he was just doing what Trump told him to do. So what's the problem? It's not his fault, right? The Q shaman, you all know the Q shaman. There were people saying, look, this guy, he's not MAGA. He's a paid actor. He's a paid actor hired by Antifa to make everybody look bad, you know, and of course that was debunked immediately, but you know, what are you going to do? It's a cult. The third takeaway, the FBI sees the insurrection as domestic terrorism. So Christopher Wray said in his opening statement, quote, that attack, that siege was criminal behavior, plain and simple. It was behavior that we, the FBI, view as domestic terrorism, unquote. That designation places the insurrectionists, quote, on the same level with ISIS and homegrown violent extremists, unquote. Ooh. MAGA people aren't going to like that. Law enforcement officials have repeatedly emphasized that they are throwing all their resources into prosecuting those responsible for planning and executing the riot, which resulted in 5 dead and scores of injured. To date, the FBI has arrested nearly 300 people related to the Capitol siege, which sent lawmakers running for shelter and delayed for hours the certification of Biden's victory. At a January 12 news conference, Michael Sherwin, the acting U.S. Attorney in D.C., told reporters that investigators were focusing on, quote, significant felony cases tied to sedition and conspiracy, adding that, quote, the scope and scale of the Capitol riot investigation was unprecedented in FBI and DOJ history. The next takeaway, number 4, domestic terrorism has been metastasizing across the country for a long time now. Before I even read this part about Ray's comments, I've been saying on this show for years now, and I dare say I think I've been proven correct. I know people who I think are perfectly well-meaning and sincere when they say things like, and yes, I'm thinking of one person who has called the show and has said things like this, but also a lot of people who have said things like this, both in private conversations with me and on the show and on social media, etc. There is an attitude among some people that just ignore these people and they'll go away, meaning, these domestic terrorist types, these militia freaks and the KKK and everybody. There are conservatives who have said to me, just ignore them. They're idiots and they'll go away. Now, granted, let's not be naive. Are there some people who will say that because they actually have, sympathies with those groups? Of course. But I also believe there are people who have said that and who have said that to me directly, who honestly, naively believe that, no, those people are on the fringe. They're on the fringe and just ignore them. Don't give them any oxygen. Don't give them the media coverage and publicity they crave. Just ignore them and they'll go away. And what I have tried over and over again to patiently explain to those people who they really sincerely believe that. I take them at their word. They genuinely believe that. They're not with those people. They think to just ignore them. Just don't pay them any attention. They're just looking for attention. Ignore them and they'll go away. They're harmless. I think January 6th proves that what I've been saying all along has been correct. No, you cannot ignore them, because what some people fail to understand is there may have been a time, when you could kind of sort of get away with ignoring those people and just let them be marginalized and just don't pay them any mind. But you can't do that now. That is not an option anymore for one simple reason: social media. Social media, the single greatest recruiting tool ever in history, in the history of mankind. Social media. Well, maybe not the greatest recruiting tool ever in the history of mankind. You do have organized religion. But the second greatest recruiting tool in the history of mankind, social media. If social media didn't exist, January 6th probably would never have happened. But it does, and so it did. And by the way, I'm not blaming social media as in trying to make social media the villain, because social media is just like anything else. And anything that's a good thing can be used for nefarious purposes, right? So I'm not one of these people who goes around saying, "Oh, life was so much better before we had social media, and now people are mean to each other and all this negativity, and oh, it's all because of social media. I wish we didn't have it." No, we should have social media. And you can do bad things with it. You can also do good things with it. But one of the bad things that people do with it is they recruit these people like these militia freaks and white supremacists and all the rest. And next thing you know, people are storming the Capitol. I really believe that. Were it not for social media, that wouldn't happen. But that is why I always say this too, when it comes to hate, it has to be confronted. You can't just say, well, we're going to ignore these people, and as long as we don't pay any attention to them, they don't exist. It doesn't work that way. There may have been a time when you could kind of get away with that, but you cannot get away with that anymore. And it has to be confronted because it is malignant. Hate is malignant. And I use that word very deliberately because it spreads. If you go to your doctor and your doctor tells you you have cancer, if you have any brain in your head, you don't just say, well, I'm just going to ignore it and it will go away. No, of course not, right? You have to confront it. You have to confront it aggressively. Hate is the same way. You have to confront it, and you have to do so aggressively. Because of social media, hate will spread. It spreads like cancer. It is malignant. That's why Christopher Wray, notice he used that word, metastasizing. He said that's a quote. He said domestic terrorism has been, quote, metastasizing across the country for a long time now, unquote. So anybody out there who's, and again, you might be completely sincere in your belief, but if you're sitting there going, oh, the problem is we pay attention to these people, just don't pay any attention to them and they won't do anything. I just don't want to hear that. You're living in a bygone era if you really believe that, just because you don't see a bunch of dudes wearing white hoods meeting in town square on a Sunday afternoon, getting ready to light up some crosses, doesn't mean that something like that isn't being planned somewhere. Okay? You can't just pretend it's not there and then it's not there. Sorry. I know that's inconvenient for some people, but that's the reality. So we got to deal with it. So, getting back to this. So it says here, speaking to Senate Judiciary Committee Chairman Dick Durbin, Wray said the siege on January 6th was not an isolated event. He said, quote, the problem of domestic terrorism has been metastasizing across the country for a long time now and is not going away anytime soon, unquote. The Bureau has stepped up its focus on domestic terrorism in recent years. In 2019, it issued an internal bulletin warning that conspiracy theories like the far-right QAnon theory pose a significant domestic terrorism threat. Quote, the FBI assesses anti-government, identity-based, and fringe political conspiracy theories very likely motivate some domestic extremists, wholly or in part, to commit criminal and sometimes violent activity. The FBI further assesses, in some cases, these conspiracy theories very likely encourage the targeting of specific people, places, and organizations, thereby increasing the likelihood of violence against these targets, unquote. Wray highlighted his agency's focus on the matter during his congressional testimony, saying the FBI has, quote, been sounding the alarm on it for a number of years now, unquote. Yeah, and that's like I said before. This is not the first time that Wray has said that at a congressional hearing. Wray added, quote, I've been sounding the alarm about domestic terrorism since, I think, just about my first month on the job when I first started appearing up on the Hill, and I've spoken about it and in maybe a dozen different congressional hearings. So whenever you've had the chance, we've tried to emphasize this is a top concern and remains so for the FBI, unquote. And the number 5 takeaway from today's hearing, according to Business Insider, quote, Wray confirmed there was no evidence of widespread voter fraud days after Trump lied about it again. New Jersey Senator Cory Booker asked Wray if he agreed with then Attorney General William Barr's announcement last year that the DOJ had not uncovered evidence of widespread voter fraud in the November election. Wray said, quote, I agree with Attorney General Barr. We are not aware of any widespread evidence of voter fraud, much less that it would have affected the outcome in the presidential election, unquote. The statement confirmed what multiple government agencies, bipartisan experts, and election officials have said for months. Despite the coronavirus pandemic and a record level of early voting and voting by mail, the 2020 election was the safest in U.S. history. Wray's testimony was not surprising, but it was noteworthy given that Trump spent much of his speech at the Conservative Political Action Committee, CPAC, on Sunday, recycling lies about the election. Well, in Trump's defense, you do have to play the hits, right? When you go on tour, you got to play the hits. That's what the audience wants to hear. And then, Ray said, oh, actually, no, that's the end of what Ray said. And then there's some comments that some of what Trump said at CPAC, but we already know what Trump said at CPAC, so we don't need to go back into all of that. But there you go. Wow, we're almost out of show already. If you'd like to get in with a call, I'll give the number one more time just quickly before we wrap up. 603-250-6007, 603-250-6007. We are rapidly running out of time on today's program. There was one other thing I did want to get to just quickly. We already. It's got to be something. We got to do something brief though. Let me look at media really quickly. Sorry guys, but I'm used to having the Facebook live chat where I look at what people are interested in talking about, and that's where we go. But there was. Oh yeah, Chris Hayes of MSNBC was calling out Governor Cuomo. We already talked about that, but what is this? This is from Mediaite. This just popped up. Dolly Parton, who helped fund the Moderna vaccine, gets her shot and sings a twist on Jolene to encourage more people. Back in November, we found out that $1 million donation from Dolly Parton toward COVID-19 research ended up funding the research that led to the Moderna vaccine. Oh, what is up with this website? This one's giving me trouble, too. The musical icon said in early February she hadn't gotten her shot yet because she didn't want to be jumping the line while others were waiting. On Tuesday, Parton got the Moderna vaccine and sung a twist on Jolene to encourage more people. Let me see if this will play. We'll hear the audio.
I'm finally going to get my vaccine. I'm so excited. I've been waiting a while. I'm old enough to get it, and I'm smart enough to get it. So I'm very happy that I'm going to get my Moderna shot today. And I wanted to tell everybody, I think you should get out there and do it too. I even changed one of my songs to fit the occasion. It goes, vaccine, 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 vaccine. I'm begging of you, please don't hesitate. Vaccine, 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 vaccine. Because once you're dead, then that's a bit too late. I know I'm trying to be funny now, but I'm dead serious about the vaccine. I think we all want to get back to normal, whatever that is, and that would be a great shot in the arm, wouldn't it, if we could get back to that. But anyhow, I just wanted to encourage everybody, because the sooner we get to feeling better, the sooner we are going to get back to being normal. So I just want to say to all of you cowards out there, don't be such a chicken squat. Get out there and get shot. Anyway, that's my message to you. So I am going to call on my friend, Dr. Najia Boomrod, that's worked in research here at Vanderbilt.
All right, anyway, so she goes on and they administer the vaccine. But it's funny, I hadn't pre-listened to that, and for a second there, I thought I was going to have to actually hit the dump button, because we are on a delay in case the language, usually, like if a caller swears or something. I thought I was going to have to hit the dump button on Dolly Parton there for a second, but then she ended up, the term was chicken squat, I think is what she said, which is, I think that's okay to go out over the air. I thought she was going to say something a little bit different, and I was going to be like, Dolly, no, our beloved Dolly Parton. I can't believe she would swear like that. But anyway, she had donated. I like too how she said, "I'm old enough to get it, and I'm smart enough to get it." I think that's wonderful. God bless Dolly Parton, a national treasure. And is that still? I'm sure it's closed right now, if only temporarily. But that amusement park there, Dollywood, is that still? Is that still a thing, or did she sell that or something? God, she must have so much money. I remember that show when I was a kid. She had it was a short-lived variety show where she would take questions from the audience. And I remember somebody asking her a question once about how she was able to play her guitar with those extremely long nails, because she has extremely long fingernails, but she'd sit there and play her guitar. And I just marveled at that. And somebody in the audience asked her how she manages to do that. And she answered the question. But I remember being perplexed by the answer because it didn't make sense to me. But anyway, it had something to do with how she tunes it. But regardless of that, we are out of time, my friends. Thank you for joining us for another exciting journey through the world of politics here on Matt Connarton Unleashed. I will be back tomorrow, but make sure you return tomorrow morning, bright and early, 7 a.m. for the morning show with Peter White, which you can hear weekdays from 7 to 9 a.m. with a replay from 2 to 4 p.m. And who knows, maybe we'll be back on the Facebook tomorrow. We'll see. I know that situation is being worked on. And hopefully we'll have some good news on that front shortly. But otherwise, of course, this will be available in just a little bit if you missed any part of today's show at WMNHradio.org. And we do archive all the shows there. All the shows that air here at WMNH, we do archive them on the website. And, of course, you can get this on all the podcasting platforms as well. Thank you to our friends at Raw Talk Online, and thank you if you enjoy the show on mattconnerton.com. All the contact info for the show is there too, and so on and so forth. Oh, and our social media, please give the show a like on Facebook if you haven't already. Follow me on Instagram, Matt_Connarton. I'm trying to remember to say that. Instagram, I'm really bad about remembering to mention Instagram. Somebody pointed that out to me the other day. I was like, yeah, you know what? I'm on Instagram. I should probably talk about it once in a while. And, of course, follow me on Twitter at Matt Connarton. That's it for me for now. Thank you so much, everybody. Be safe. Don't let your guard down yet. Sounds like good news on the vaccine front, but we still have a ways to go. Thank you, Tony D, for calling. And, of course, Eazy-G, Eric Gagnon. I'll talk at y'all a little bit later. Bye, everybody. Stay warm.